October 16th, 2009. The glittering halls of the newly restored Neues Museum in Berlin are completely packed. Journalists, dignitaries, and art historians from across the globe have gathered for the grand unveiling of the museum's undisputed star. She is the most famous queen of antiquity, a symbol of eternal beauty, and the crown jewel of Germany's archaeological collection. She is the bust of Queen Nefertiti. Since its discovery, her distinct features and enigmatic smile have captivated millions as the ancient world's Mona Lisa. But as the champagne flows in Berlin, a scandalous accusation from a historian in Geneva threatens to shatter the foundation of Egyptology. The celebrated Queen Nefertiti is a fake. Beneath her painted surface lies a twisting tale of forgery and a highly calculated archaeological heist. More than 3,300 years ago, during the 18th dynasty, Egypt was ruled by the heretic pharaoh Akhenaten and his great royal spouse Nefertiti. They were the ultimate power couple of the ancient world. Their romance was unprecedented. Ancient statuary depicts them holding hands, kissing on their royal chariot, and ruling as equals. But Akhenaten was a rebel. He violently abolished the pantheon of traditional Egyptian gods, imposing the worship of a single deity, Aton, the sun god. To solidify his radical new religion, he and Nefertiti abandoned the ancient capital and marched into the brutal, empty desert to build a sprawling utopian metropolis called Akhetaten, the horizon of the sun. It was a city of 50,000 people featuring massive, roofless temples designed to let the sun's rays pour in. But their reign was short-lived. After just 17 years, the heretic king and his beautiful queen died. Furious at their religious rebellion, their successors ordered the immediate destruction of the city. Palaces were dismantled brick by brick. Statues were smashed. Nefertiti's name was violently chiseled off temple walls. In less than 3 decades, the majestic capital was swallowed by the desert sands, erased from history. It became a ghost town. On December 6, 1912, the German archaeologist Ludwig Borchart was excavating the desolate ruins of this forgotten city, now known as Tel el Amarna. British archaeologists, led by the legendary Sir Flinders Petrie, had already scoured the site decades earlier, declaring that there was nothing left to find. But Borchart, pressured by Kaiser Wilhelm to bring a magnificent trophy back to Prussia, was desperate. Using architectural floor plans, he targeted a previously ignored sector of the city, the estates of the ancient artisans. Digging through the rubble, Borchart uncovered the ancient home and workshop of Thutmose, the personal chief sculptor to the pharaoh. And there, lying face down in the dirt, just 50 centimeters beneath the gravel, he allegedly found the impossible. It was the vividly colored bust of Nefertiti, virtually unblemished by time. While a nearby bust of Pharaoh Akhenaten was found completely smashed and disfigured by ancient vandals, Nefertiti's bust remained entirely intact. Her colors were vibrant, and her structure held no major fractures. Only her left eye was missing its inlay. Borchart claimed she had fallen from a wooden shelf over 3 millennia ago and simply rested in the dirt, unscathed. Borchart packed the treasure away, and the legend of the beautiful queen was reborn. But for Swiss historian Henri Stierlin, the story was a beautifully crafted lie. After a 20-year investigation, Stierlin pointed out glaring anomalies that the academic world had willfully ignored. First, its preservation is scientifically incongruous. A delicate, heavy limestone object wouldn't survive a fall onto a stone floor undamaged. Second, the vertical cut of the shoulders is bizarre, a distinctly modern European style unlike the horizontal cuts used almost exclusively in 3,000 years of Egyptian art. Stierlin's theory was explosive. Borchart never found a finished bust. In the early 20th century, Cairo was the counterfeiting capital of the world. Master forgers, utilizing ancient limestone scavenged from unprotected ruins, were mass-producing fake artifacts to sell to wealthy European museums. Stierlin theorized that Borchart, wanting to test how ancient Egyptians applied pigments, commissioned a local sculptor to create a replica of Nefertiti using authentic ancient plaster and pigments found in the ruins of Thutmose's workshop. But on December 6, 1912, a group of German royals unexpectedly visited the excavation site. Caught off guard and eager to impress his royal patrons, Borchart panicked. According to the theory, he presented his newly painted plaster experiment to the royals as a genuine ancient masterpiece. A photograph was snapped, immortalizing the moment. Borchart was trapped. To admit it was a replica would mean humiliating the German royal family, an act of treason that would have destroyed his career. So he buried the truth, and the fake queen was sent to Berlin. With accusations of forgery threatening to destroy their most prized exhibit, the directors of the Neues Museum decided it was time to subject Nefertiti to a lie detector test. They transported the priceless artifact to a Berlin hospital for high-resolution CT scans. The scans revealed a structural secret hidden beneath her painted exterior. Rather than a solid piece of carved rock, the bust was composed of a central, somewhat crude limestone core, which had then been heavily layered with plaster, and the plaster had been carefully manipulated to give the queen a facelift. The scans showed that the sculptor had used plaster to smooth out wrinkles around the mouth, fix a bump on the bridge of the nose, and aggressively correct the shoulders. But did this prove it was a fake? Actually, the science began to point in the opposite direction. When chemists analyzed the plaster itself, they discovered it was a highly specific chemical mix unique to the Amarna period. While a 1912 forger could have theoretically used ancient plaster found at the dig site, another piece of evidence was much harder to fake: the hidden geometry of the queen's face. In ancient Egypt, artists did not use inches or centimeters. They used a highly specific unit of measurement known as the Egyptian finger, which equates to exactly 1.875 modern centimeters. When German Egyptologist Rolf Krauss analyzed the bust dimensions, he discovered a precise mathematical alignment. The distance from the base of her chin to her headdress, the width of her cheeks, the exact placement of her mouth, every single proportion fell accurately onto an ancient Egyptian grid based on the 1.875 centimeter finger. A modern forger in 1912, working quickly with plaster, would not have possessed the advanced Egyptological knowledge required to accurately reproduce the forgotten mathematics of the Amarna proportional grid. Furthermore, museum curators scoured their hidden archives and found one other heavily damaged bust from the exact same excavation that also featured vertically cut shoulders, proving the style, while rare, did exist in antiquity. The science had spoken. The bust was authentic. But resolving the mystery of her creation only exposed a much darker crime regarding how she ended up in Germany. If Nefertiti is real, then her presence in Berlin is the result of an audacious, calculating heist. In the early 20th century, the law regarding antiquities was clear. Any artifacts found during an excavation had to be divided equally between the foreign archaeological team and the Egyptian government. Furthermore, any masterpiece depicting royal figures was strictly forbidden from leaving Egypt. In January 1913, Gustave Lefebvre, a French inspector acting on behalf of the Egyptian government, arrived at Tel El Amarna to divide the spoils of Borchart's dig. Borchart knew that if Lefebvre saw the vivid, unblemished bust of the queen, it would instantly be confiscated and sent to the museum in Cairo. So, Borchart orchestrated a masterclass in psychological manipulation. He knew that Lefebvre was an expert in ancient texts, not statuary. When the Frenchman arrived, Borchart immediately distracted him with a beautifully inscribed stone tablet detailing the royal family. While Lefebvre was captivated by the hieroglyphs, the time came to inspect the sculptures. According to eyewitness accounts from Borchart's own team, Borchart deliberately kept the sculpture hidden at the bottom of a packing crate. He did not pull it out for inspection. Instead, he handed the French inspector a photograph. But it was not a well-lit, accurate photograph. It was a deliberately darkened, poorly framed image that obscured her royal headdress and her majestic necklace. Borchart downplayed the item, making it look like a minor, insignificant piece of rubble. The ultimate proof of this deception lies in the official 1913 partition manifest, handwritten by Gustave Lefebvre himself. In the column of items cleared to be shipped to Berlin, object number 1 is not listed as the great royal spouse of the pharaoh. It is listed simply as a bust of a royal princess made of painted plaster. By deliberately misidentifying the material as mere plaster, omitting the limestone core and stripping her of her royal title, Borchart smuggled this ancient masterpiece right under the nose of the authorities. Today, the Egyptian government, led by prominent figures like Dr. Zahi Hawass, continues to fiercely demand the return of the stolen queen. They argue that her exit from Egypt was not a legal partition, but a calculated illegal deception. The German government, meanwhile, maintains that the paperwork was signed, and the Mona Lisa of the ancient world will remain in Berlin. When you stand before the glass case in the Neuss Museum and look into the single painted eye of Queen Nefertiti, you are looking at a survivor. She survived the violent collapse of her husband's heretical empire. She survived the brutal erasure of her city, resting in the dark desert sands for 3,300 years. She survived the allegations of forgery that threatened to strip her of her authenticity. And today, she survives as a captive of modern geopolitics, a priceless hostage trapped between the borders of two nations. The kings and archaeologists who tried to control her legacy are long gone. But Nefertiti, the beautiful woman who came from nowhere, continues to rule the imagination of the world, keeping her deepest secrets hidden beneath a layer of painted plaster. Thank you for watching. If you are fascinated by the hidden truths of history, ancient artifacts, and the scientific discoveries that continuously complicate our established history, hit that subscribe button. We are just scratching the surface. Until next time, keep exploring.